Welcome y bienvenidos to this episode of Love Learning You. As you all know, once a month, and we might be increasing that soon, but once a month, we feature a voice, leading industry experts from around the world, and we all get to sit and learn together and be in conversation. And I am very excited for our guest today, our featured voice, Magda Tabac. And I'm excited to learn with you. Magda Tabac, she was just telling me before we hit record, there's so many variations depending on where you're at in the world that your name is said, but she is not only just I would say, global influencer. You are a person who I have learned a lot from in a short amount of time because we were both at a conference. That's where we met. And if you're new here, I always start the Featured Voices episodes with giving guests their flowers. So one of the things that I want to say about Magda, we met because we are both certified trainers in process communication model. And we met in France at an international conference. And so we've known each other, well, it'll be a year this summer. So yes. One of the things that stood out to me, though, and I have to give a shout out to our friend Monica Livan. I always think of the three of us, the Sunshine Sisters. So one thing about Magda,
right?
Two words that I want to tell you and just remind you of today is the two words that always stick out for you: bright and brilliant. Bright because she could go into any space and she is going to brighten the room like sunshine, literally, and not like a firecracker. I'm going to be specific, a sparkler, because it's infectious. And she's just spreading joy. She's one of those people who just has that impact no matter what space she's in, no matter how gloomy it might feel. She's going to help us see the bright side of things. And brilliant because she does such an impactful work in neuroscience and communications. And the one thing I'm very excited about why behind this episode, Magda, is because you're an expert with stress management. And I'm a recovering workaholic and a recovering people pleaser. I confess. And so I am excited to learn more strategies from you. We are going to dive into some of those more strategies and learning from her technical knowledge. After, in the beginning here, we get to know some of the personal details about you through some fun questions. So without further ado, I do want to pass over the mic to you. I always like to have guests introduce themselves how they typically would. To an audience or anything, and just tell us more about the highlights of Magda. The other thing I do want to give you flowers for is I don't know you personally real well, but the things I do know, number one, I knew about some of the work you were doing in Spain, and a lot of it had to do with volunteering and giving back. You also spent time to even hop on a call and share about that with myself and Monica, one of our colleague friends. So I know you have a heart of gold. But even the way I heard you speak about your husband and your family, and just a disclaimer, you all, when we learn in our learning circles, we get very deep because we talk about communication and relationship. So I just love the vulnerability that you shared. And there was so much relatability, even from just a female and male perspective in relationship, that I think all of us, when we were learning together, you go deep really fast because you go, well, this is my situation. How do I handle this? And so that's what we love to do here with our Featured Voices guests is Magda, take it away and introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Justine, and thank you for the flowers. Thank you for the introduction. I really love it, and I take it to heart. And yes, I'll introduce myself shortly. What can I say? I grew up in communist Romania, and that has impacted a lot. My life and my the fact that I don't take things for granted, and I think that has also gave it really gave me the desire to know this world and to know myself deeper than the surface, to know other people deeper than the surface, and to just not stay within confined circle of how things should be or how I should behave or what is expected of me. And I think that in the end translated, of course, I had a life in the um, working in the big companies, doing what you are saying with workaholic and people pleaser. I'm still working on that, but I wasn't.
Oh yes, we both are, my friend.
Yes, I've done that, the corporation life and consultancy, even working a lot, thinking that that's what defines me as a person, because that's what I learned. And growing in communist Romania, and then when I was 9 years old, the revolution happened in Romania, and we started, to move towards democracy. I think we are still moving towards that even today, but it just came with it was a world of possibilities and opportunities, and for me, working in a corporate, it was the dream,
Yeah.
until it was not anymore, until I realized that, there's another dream that fits me better, but it took a burnout in a job that
Yeah.
sounded so well on the paper. It was a job that yeah, it should have been, it should have made me so happy and proud, and it did not. From the first week
Yeah.
in that job, I realized that was not for me. And but it took me a year, almost, well, 9 months, until I gave my resignation to actually do that internal analysis. Is this what I really want? Is because I should do it? Should I really do it? What makes me happy? What makes me,
Mm.
what defines me? What makes me, like, really shine and be
Right.
happy, and from that joy give to the others? Because I had been in that job. I was, you know what I always say in my trainings: put your mask first and take care of your energy first to give to others. I did not do that in that job. And
Yep. Yep.
12 years in uh, in the corporate environment, I had a lot of jobs that I loved, and a lot of colleagues, that I really loved working with, and most of my experience there was really good.
Yeah.
But I think it took that kick in the butt to make me actually think, what do I want to bring to this world? What am I really good at, and what would make me feel like I'm not working, but that I'm just
Yes.
following my passion.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's how it started. Then that was 2017. Already in 2015, I had been trained in PCM as an employee, in one of the
Mm.
corporations, and I loved it, and it stayed with me. And then in 2017, when I was going through that, burnout, and that, those thoughts, what am I doing
Yeah.
with
What am
myself?
I really doing with my life?
Yeah, exactly. Is this what I really want, or is what I was taught that I should want and it should be good for me? And yeah, and that's when I got certified in 2017. And since then, it's been it's been a rocky road, let's say, because I had no clue how to start a business, how to sell myself, how to promote myself, how to all the things. I was lucky enough to be part of a trainers community in London. At that time, I was actually in the UK. At that time, I was living in London, and that really supported me. And since then, I've been building my business a lot. I've been building myself as a person. We were just discussing earlier that I'm still
Mhm.
developing, I'm still learning. So besides process communication model, which united us, and I'm really grateful for that, I'm also, I train myself a lot in neuroscience, but like applied neuroscience in simple terms. Yeah, I don't do complicated. My brain doesn't. Oh yeah, that's
So
an
I
amazing.
knew I knew you were going to react, but I had to share this recommendation because it's such a big part of my dissertation research right now. I'm getting a PhD, and there's some
Yeah.
emerging concept like branches called cultural psychology, cultural neuroscience. That is kind of more my area, but some of Dr. Candace B. Pert's work, may she rest in power. But molecules of emotion, oh my goodness, because she was one of the first scientists that said, no, 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 there's a full spiritual component to this too. And this is a mind, body, spirit integration down to the cellular level. So I wanted to give that recommendation really quick because I knew also
Mhm.
that you'd be like,
Yes, please.
so
Yes, molecular
how did you
psychology.
go in that path? Because that could be a leap for some people if they're going, oh wow, she lived in Brazil and UK, she's done corporate work, and then she's doing applied neuroscience. And that's
Right.
why else I chose the word brilliant. This woman is
Yeah.
brilliant, you all. Just putting that out there because it's a very intricate understanding. And that's we talk about that some here too sometimes. We really have to
Yeah.
be in that perfect zone where we're a little out of our comfort zone to actually develop those new neural pathways through
Yes.
experiences.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that path happen from, especially if somebody's like, well, I want to do what I love.
Yeah.
How did you
Yeah.
make that jump and what led you to the specific applied neuroscience things?
Well, for me, it was that kick in the butt that I mentioned earlier. You know, the fact that during that year I experienced burnout, and I at that time I had no clue what burnout is. I didn't know what was
Yeah.
happening to me.
Yep.
And later on, I also somatized a lot of that bad energy, let's say, and
Yeah.
that stress, and it transformed into a serious health problem. You know, so
Same.
I was just, yeah, okay. I'm sorry about that. Yeah,
And I'm sorry about
sometimes,
yours. And we know
yeah,
too, when we don't address the emotions and we push them down, it can
yeah,
manifest in the body.
yeah. Absolutely. So I I kind of knew about that, but I wanted to find out more. And in the end, you know, my motivation was to explain what happened with me. Why did I, you know, metabolize a disease because of that? Or was it really connected? Or was it more in my mind? Or whatever it was. So
Right, right.
that's how I started. Yeah, that's how I started. So I remember in 2018, I went to a retreat that was about applied neuroscience and yoga and meditation. And I really enjoyed it because it was the introduction in neuroscience that I really wanted to have. And later on, I followed on through with these providers. They are the NeuroMindfulness Institute.
Okay.
They are from France, or
Beautiful.
they are located in France. And that was kind of the eye-opening element for me. Then
Mm-hmm.
I remember buying, like, after that retreat, I think I bought like 30 books, you know, that they recommended during the retreat, and I started, you know, to read, to study, to take notes, and
We're so
then
we're
I
so
continued.
similar.
Yeah, that's see, that's why we really connected so
Yeah.
easily. Yeah. So I started to do that. I still have some of the books here, but then I started to buy them for my tablet or my Kindle because I don't have any more space, and you know, I moved around quite a lot, so I had to do that. And then they continued, and they created some other courses, also online pre-recorded courses, and then, you know,
Beautiful.
online but live courses. And I continued with them, and that's how I got my certification as a practitioner, master practitioner. But then I also did some other courses. There is the Neuroscience Academy. There is
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a professor of neuroscience in Australia, and I also did the neuroscience boot camp with her. So I wanted to have more sources, and, you know,
Yes.
different points of views, and to find then
Yeah.
my own voice, because it's not like I'm creating anything, because I'm just a curator
We're,
of
we're
knowledge.
yes, we're learning and really applying our story to the
Exactly.
work and in hopes that that speaks to perhaps somebody else who has burnout, somebody else who
Exactly.
wants to love learning themselves and learning and how do I do that? How do I understand
Yeah.
who I am and what I'm made to do in this life? Um,
Yeah.
that's powerful. So just so people know a little bit more contextually, and we're going to get into our section here called cultural connectors. It's kind of like speed dating, but some very quick questions and fun questions that help us get to know the guest. um I have this hair that keeps falling in my face. So quick question though, so you've lived
Mhm.
in Brazil, United
Mhm.
Kingdom, and now you currently reside in Germany.
In
Left
Germany, and
and you
I
left
also live.
Romania at 9,
No, no,
or you
I lived there, um well, without interruptions until I was, what was that, 21. Then I went
okay,
for one semester of study in Portugal. That was actually my first international experience,
okay,
and I loved it.
yes,
Then I went back, finished my studies, then went to a master's in Poland, then uh, German intensive German classes, and an internship in Germany, then a bit back to Romania,
brilliant,
then
it's the right word,
Brazil, then
brilliant.
Romania, UK, back Romania. No, actually from UK straight to Germany. Yeah, so
You're a citizen
six.
of the world.
Yes, yes, and
So
I'm. so grateful for this, because I just love the world and I love the people and the differences. Yeah, yeah.
You can, and you know what? Everywhere we go, at the heart of it, we are all the same. We all want to be seen and heard and loved.
Yes.
And then there's also a beautiful tapestry of learning, and you just say, wow. It's like being an explorer, a modern day explorer, and saying, the world is my oyster. I have a lot I can keep learning. And I'm going to learn about myself in the process. How many languages do you speak? I don't know. I don't know that I've asked you this.
Yeah. Well, with Romanian, which is my
Mhm.
mother tongue, I speak to different levels, 7 languages.
Oh,
Um,
Magda,
yes, I
goals.
have. Yes, I have a musical ear. We say, if a music, if a language has music, and normally the Latin languages have a lot of music in
Yeah.
them, then they are very easy for me to remember, and that's why I know that we connected and we spoke a bit of Spanish while we were in
Yep.
France.
And
I
the structure in the Latin languages, right? If
Yeah,
you're new to language development, once you pick up some of those patterns, I didn't mention
yes.
this at the beginning. I'm brushing up so I can become fully fluent the way I want to be in Spanish, and also learning Dutch. So I wanted to ask you
Ooh,
that question because viewers, I tell on myself here. Now you have to hold me accountable. So, but what I realized, I was telling my partner, I'm realizing the same thing about myself is, oh, I actually have an ear for this. And it actually makes sense. And part of that is, right, my grandparents on my mother's side spoke Dutch, and then my father's side Spanish. So I already had an ear, I think, growing up. But I also just
yeah,
think some of us, if we actually tapped into it, we would realize, oh, once you understand the structure, okay.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and that's
What are
what
the seven? What are the
Mhm.
seven? Just so people know.
Yeah, so Romanian,
Yeah, right.
it's native, but my parents would say, "Not anymore. You're making so many mistakes now," because sometimes I do make mistakes, or I
Uh-huh.
just combine it with English, and as I say, I speak wronglish, and
Yes.
my
Yeah.
parents hate that.
Spanglish as well. Yeah.
Exactly. My parents hate that, but it does happen when you live so much,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
teach a lot in English, so it stays with me. Then the ones that I feel really comfortable in are, of course, English, Spanish, Portuguese,
Okay.
and then Italian. I understand. I think 95%. I don't speak so easily now because I didn't I didn't practice it for a while. But send me 2 weeks in Italy and I'll be fine. Then
Yeah.
it will get
Right.
back to me. And the
Very
same is with
similar to
French.
Spanish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and the same is with French.
Yeah.
And then guess what? Germany, and I live in Germany now, and my German is, well, it's quite advanced now, but I still sweat when I speak, because it's just, it doesn't come naturally. The other
Well, you
languages
have to,
come.
it's a lot of extra layers of brain power,
Yes,
I feel like,
yes,
but maybe that's why it's a good challenge for how some of us are wired. I don't know. It's just like some
it
people
is.
who are really good with numbers. So I think that's
Yeah,
another way, right, for people to understand, besides just understanding your emotions, who you are spiritually, intellectually. I think we're in a time period where there's access to so much information.
yeah,
if you have access to the internet, and that is a privilege still in a lot of places of the world. So if you have that privilege, please, there's so much information, so many ways to learn, even if you can't physically travel or have the means to do other things. There are a lot of free ways to expand your knowledge with this. Magda, I want to show the viewers and listeners. So if you're listening on podcast, you might want to be sure that you are subscribed to at Love Learning You on our official YouTube channel here. But this is Magda's beautiful website. And I just wanted to read your personal why, remind all of you that in every episode of the Love Learning You podcast, you can find our linked resources in the show notes, and you always want to check those out. We will put in there anything relevant to that episode that is either a resource from Educator Aid, whether that's an article or a case study or a learning experience, a workshop, etc. And then when we have our featured voices, those resources, it's all about them. And so anything that Magda's offering, you're going to be able to see that by visiting her website. Um, And then just a reminder before we get into some more cultural connection questions, she helps people lead better lives through increased self-awareness, better communication, and improved stress management. Woo! 3 things that I think we all need a bit more of in our fast-paced world. So let's hop into our cultural connection round. And my first question is, what's on your bookshelf? So what are you currently reading? And I like this because so many of us, I think we dabble in like, oh, I got this type of book. I got this type. And I love for our guests to, okay, tell us.
Actually, with me, they're on the other way around. Well, I actually read about 5 books in parallel, but I have 2 with me and another one on my Kindle. So what I'm actually exactly, John Parr, Foreplay, Fair Play, and Foul Play. This is actually the book that explains his model of emotional assertiveness, which is the training that I just got certified in recently,
Yes.
and I'm loving it. It's like it's a tool, man, that I think I would have needed 20 years ago,
I need to
but I'm
order
just,
this. He's
yes, please.
incredible.
Like he's incredible, and this model that he proposes is just so simple and it makes so much sense. It doesn't mean it's easy to apply. Of course, it's about emotional assertiveness. It's about how we hide our real emotions behind, defense
Oof.
mechanisms. And it's about, for example, one thing that he really talks about here, and for me it was an eye opener. It's about anger and how anger actually is supposed to give us energy to, create win-win outcomes for people involved in a certain situation that made us angry, and how more
Right.
than 99% of us see the dark face of anger, because this is how we have seen it around, yelling or being, rude or like loud, because that's what we've seen around. But actually, anger is supposed to give us the energy to solve, problems
It,
and
it
to,
motivates us into action.
yes, absolutely. So a lot of things like, and because talking about, we talk about anger, this is another book, but it is in Romanian. I just bought it right now because I came back from Romania. This is Face to Face with Your Anger, or, Facing Your Anger, something like that. And
Ooh.
it's written by a psychologist, doctor psychologist. And anger is one of the emotions that I need to work with, to actually show really
Yep.
authentically. And yeah, so because I do have the kind of explosive anger, so the sweet Magda, the harmonizer based on face
Same.
in PCM, for those
Yep.
who know, becomes a little beast, or a big beast when my anger starts.
It's
And
the Jekyll Hyde.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. So this is a big, working with my anger is a big priority for me, especially because I am now a trained emotional assertiveness trainer, and I want to apply the model on myself first.
Right.
So that's
Right.
what I'm doing right now. That's why these books are on my on my shelf, and then I
Is
do.
that book translated to English, Magda, or no? Not at
No,
this time.
unfortunately
Okay.
not.
Okay.
It just appeared this year in Romanian, but another book on anger, you might know it already, and I'm looking there at my
Mm-hmm.
books, the Dance of Anger. Do you know The Dance of Anger? It's another very good book
No.
on anger. So The Dance of
No.
Anger, Harriet Lerner.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you. So again, make sure that as you listen, we also have so many nuggets throughout these interviews that are just recommendations and learning path type things that might
Yeah.
support your own journey. Next question. We get to, this is a time travel question. We get to travel back in time
Hmm.
and we visit you when you're a kid. And we're going to have one of your favorite meals as a kid. What are we eating with you?
Mm, yum, yum. I'm drooling right now. That's one of, we call it a pudding of rice and apples in Romania,
Ooh.
but it's like rice milk or milk rice. Now I'm confusing the ones in German, and yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's rice that you cook in milk with cinnamon, and then you bake it in the oven with layers of apples, in between.
Ooh.
And it's amazing with some butter and stuff, to make it
Oh,
even more, you know,
oh, it sounds
positive, and
amazing.
it's
Oh,
amazing.
Magda, what
It's
did you
amazing.
do to us? We're all
I
like
know.
smelling cinnamon apples and wanting that. And I love rice and I love sweet
Me
rice,
too.
like,
Me
in
too.
Latin countries and stuff.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
and
So
you right, you see that so common, sweet rice. in so many cultures, whether it's with coconut milk
Exactly.
or cinnamon or the apple, like,
Absolutely.
and so I think
Yeah.
that's also just really cool to hear about that from guests, because then we can all relate in those with, oh, we have something like this and we do this.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I,
Yes.
oh, now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Thanks a
It's really
lot. No.
amazing. I'm like drooling right now. I might do it. I might cook it myself, but I know it's not the same as my mother does it. You know, it's like hers is the best.
That's the thing. That's the thing, is can we actually replicate it like moms or grandmas or the relatives who made it? Okay. The next question here, give me 1 second to get to my questions. My next question is, you have to choose an anthem, a song just for Magda to walk onto a stage. So say that you are doing a TED Talk and you have to have a song to walk out to. What is going to be Magda's song?
It's one that I actually sing to myself sometimes in a sunny day. It's I'm walking on sunshine. Oh, and I want to. I mean, it's really me on a good day, because of course I also have
Yeah.
so good days.
Yeah.
But and it's connected also with what you were saying in the introduction. You know that I do give my best to shine a light, you know, or to bring some positive energy where I'm going. And even if it, you know, if it's just through my presence and my jokes and my light attitude, or through what I'm sharing, you know, what I'm teaching people. And so I would want to say that yes, I'm walking on sunshine, and I'm inviting people to do the same, you know,
Yes.
to what I'm doing.
So I think we bonded over this too in the summer. I love that song. I've loved it since I was a kid. The
Me
first
too.
cell phone I had, it was my ringtone. And also my mother, who passed away a couple years ago, that was one of her favorite songs. So that was such a like moment when we were both sharing about that, because I still love that song too. And yeah, on my best days, that's exactly how I feel. And don't we
Yeah.
all want to have our best days? And so that's why I also love the work that you're doing, because your strategies help us to get there. So we've learned a little bit about different things that drive you, just some very quick cultural connection questions about some fun ones. And now I want us to shift and learn a little bit more from your expertise before we close out. And this goes back to our FAQs, or our frequently asked questions, where we ask, you know, what are you most frequently asked as a, and you're an author, correct? Yeah.
I'm also an author. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
An author, a speaker, a coach, right? The most frequently asked questions. So one of the things that I've been studying is a more recent study about miscommunication in the workplace. I think I might know what you're going to say, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But they basically say that there are 4 big barriers to actually, like, when this happens, miscommunication in the workplace. There's 4 key barriers that are the causes: emotional, perceptual, interpersonal, and cultural. Which one stands out to you with the work you're doing right now with clients as the one you're seeing pop up the most? So we know often that's like the number one reason like people are unhappy in the workplace is miscommunication. The research in 2022 from Bro6, those are the 4 types that are most common as far as the barriers that cause. And again, it's emotional, perceptual, interpersonal, and cultural. What do you think, through your lens? What do you think you see coming up
Well,
most?
I would say through the lens of process communication model, I think you'd agree with me that the perceptual one is the one I get to address the most, because at this moment I think most of my work is focused on process communication model, and applying it in companies or with individuals when I have my open PCM courses.
Yep.
However, when I look also at PCM, but especially now through the lens of emotional assertiveness, I can also see the emotional part, you know, that,
Yeah.
and how we are not in contact with our real and authentic emotions, and how we put on masks to, you know, to protect ourselves, but we don't understand that actually those are blockages for communication, and they are invitations to distress. And I'm looking at myself, I'm
Right.
learning a lot just by observing myself, and like,
It's
I'm
hard.
like that. No, 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 no. But hey, we are all doing like that, or many of us are doing like that. And it's just eye-opening to see, oh my God, here I am putting this barrier, and I'm inviting others into this stress like that, or I don't communicate well because I'm afraid of what, and then I stay. And so
Right.
I think through my work right now, or until now, I was focusing a lot on the perceptual part, but I can see how this is going to now include also the emotional part through what I have been learning lately. And
Right.
yeah, and I think it's going very well hand in hand. Yeah.
It's that interesting, right? Because emotional, cultural, perceptual, interpersonal, they're so
Mm,
deeply linked. But then
yeah.
when you get into more of a research lens, there's a lot of facets to each of those.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I tend to think more like you in this respect too, of the perception, right? So everybody think of it like social media filters. That's our
Yeah.
perception, how we filter everything we see on top of our own lived experiences and who we are. And
Yeah.
that's different for every single person. So you might have a reaction to a situation that is one way, and I might see it completely differently. We're both standing right there beside each other.
Okay. Yeah.
In theory, we should both be seeing the same exact thing, but we're processing what we see through our
Differently.
own perceptual frame.
Yeah.
So that, to your point, paired with the not only mismanagement of emotions, but I would also say misidentification. And I really
Yeah.
struggled with this and still do at times with what emotion am I actually experiencing right now? Because
Yeah.
how can I accept, oh, I feel rage right now, which is different
Yeah.
than just anger. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of emotions. Um, when we don't even stop, identify, name it, and then accept it, right?
Yeah.
Then we're stuck because psychologically, when I accept who I am, then I can change. Carl Rogers was a great psychiatrist who said that. But if I don't even know how to name my emotions, Magda, right?
Yeah. I'm actually searching here on my desk. I
You found
put
us a
it.
relevant book.
Yeah. So what I was searching on my desk is this,
Oh,
the wheel of
yes.
emotions. As you can see, there are some dots here. So what I start to do from time to time, I just to get acquainted with the emotions I feel in a certain period of time, I set some reminders on my phone,
Mhm.
and at that hour, I look on this wheel of emotions. There are many versions on the internet, and I put a
Yes.
dot where I'm feeling what I'm feeling. And sometimes I must say I had to look in the dictionary for what some of those emotions meant, because we are not really literate when it comes to emotions. And especially the way I was raised in the culture,
Mm.
yeah, there were quite a lot of emotions that were a no or not recommended, or better hide them. And I know, like, from the countries I lived in, it's a common kind of pattern, unfortunately. So I'm trying to re-educate myself when it comes to emotions. And that's one of the exercises I do, and it works. This is, I don't know, probably the fourth time I'm starting, and I just do it for a few weeks yeah, at a time. Yeah.
I'm trying to get to I have a version I wanted to show. I may have showed it here before, but um I'm trying to pull it up because I think,
Mhm.
oh, there we go. Um I think it's really helpful, and I do this with a lot of my clients. So this is just another version of that wheel. Oh, I think I have it hidden. I think I have it hidden. Hang on, let me zoom in. This is from one of my trainings, but this is just another version of that wheel that Magda was referencing. I
Mhm.
got this actually from one of my colleagues. He does incredible work with schools. His name's Dr. Brian Dinkins. And so I don't know the original source. But how are you feeling across the top? If you look to the left, it's energy. and then pleasantness. I'm really not even sure if there was a quadrant on the right? Because you just can look on the internet. But this always gives us an idea similar to the wheel. And you said, how often do you set a reminder on your phone just to check in
Like
with yourself?
3-4 times a day, depending
Oh,
from session to
okay.
session. Yeah.
I love that strategy. So then
Yeah.
in that's a great strategy for us to kick off the next question. Let me get to that, which is what are two bite-sized strategies that individuals could implement in their daily lives from your work, Magda, and everything that you're out here putting into the world to continue to help us know ourselves better, love ourselves better? What is, in addition to what you just named, I think that that's a really powerful strategy that I feel convicted to adopt myself.
Good. It's
Let
useful.
me set my alarms.
Good. And yes, so I would just continue with to build a bit on this, because there is that uh, strategy, I would say, to calm down, that is called name it to tame it. And this is
Oh,
what this wheel of emotion is actually also doing.
yeah.
And especially when we are really annoyed, or like, or we have like, how do you say it? It's like our amygdala is flared up, and we cannot really, rage, or all the nuances from that. And our critical and logical thinking has been cut off. The neocortex does not receive the blood and the oxygen, because the
All
whole brain.
logic goes out the window. Think
Exactly.
slashing your ex-boyfriend's tires.
Exactly. Yes. Like that. So what comment in this element? Don't take the knife in your hand.
Right. Put
But
it down.
no. But what really works, and why I'm doing this also, is if you make an effort on the spot to name that emotion, what you're doing, in fact, is you're bringing again the power to the neocortex, because the neocortex, or if we are to use the metaphor of the rider and the elephant, so
Mhm.
the rider is so the neocortex, the new brain, is the part of the brain who deals with language, with words. So once you force it to get back into action, meaning what emotion I'm feeling, oh, what's this, okay, so I'm naming it, I'm using a word for
Right.
it,
Right.
I'm giving power back to the rider, to the logical brain, to the neocortex. So that's how I can get back in
Wow.
charge of my you know the whole of me, not just the old brain who wants,
Right.
to run, or to attack, or to fight, or whatever it is, to survive. So
Yeah.
it's going to be the logical part in me, who thinks about the effects of my, or the outcomes of my actions. So if I'm going to go with the knife at the tire, there might be some results that I don't want to, some side effects of that I might
So
want to avoid, or
So
yeah.
are you saying that it also is a way of us to perhaps quickly, I'm a big fan of the book The Four Agreements by
Mhm.
Don Miguel Ruiz. And one of
Yeah.
the agreements is take nothing personal. Is that actually a way for us to, and we know from our personality structure and our makeup in particular, you and I, we tend to really hang on to feelings. we
Yeah.
we filter the world through that perceptual frame of
Yeah.
feelings. And
Yeah.
so when that happens, you often tend to personalize things more, and other personality energies, they have a better knack sometimes, or maybe more bandwidth, so to speak, to actually compartmentalize and say, that's the situation. They didn't say, Magda, da 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 da. They said, what about that report? Like
Yeah.
they're not right, they're not pointing a finger. So is that a way for us to quickly also not hang on to that emotion, that
Yeah.
strategy you just gave us, and to say, okay, let me name it, and if I name it, then it's a thing here and I'm not personalizing it.
Yeah, yeah, it helps because it puts a bit of distance, and because when we are under stress, our capacity to think logically decreases.
Mm.
We tend to take things personal, to see an attack where it was not an attack, or we tend to, depending on the person and the personality structure, we might just focus on the negative and see either the other one or ourselves as not good enough, not okay,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then the otherness happens because you put yourself or the other in the other category, which means I don't care about you. I don't care about the relationship. I don't care about,
Yeah.
whatever happens.
The
So then,
whole narrative telling stories to ourselves. Yeah.
exactly. So whatever, whatever technique we use to give power back to our logical brain, who will actually see, well, this guy probably was very stressed because we knew he had I don't know, the kid was sick and he didn't sleep at all last night, and he might be a bit, tired and a bit, I don't know, not so at his best today,
Right.
and I can then see the other reasons behind it, and I will stop taking, things personally. For our personality structure is a big danger to do
Yeah.
that. And but especially, especially because we know that one of the strategies that I would use is like have, and many times I have post-its near me. Was
Mhm.
this a really personal? Can
Yeah.
you find, can there be another
I do the
yeah,
same. I try to
yeah,
break it down and really remove myself and go, even if you're upset, even if you're in it and you feel a certain way,
yeah,
it's important to do that because that is the source, right? And we touched
yeah,
on this a little bit briefly earlier, but that's a whole other thing that I didn't even realize that we had in common. We
yeah.
both left our last jobs in 2017. Well, mine was late 2016, November 2016, but I started my business in 2017, and it was ultimately I found myself having a lot of health issues. I had a cyst that literally popped up overnight. It was all from stress. And I was holding so many emotional things, traumas that I had not addressed. And you don't always know, right? Like I could have maybe heard a podcast like this 15 years ago. And I think I would have just been like, kind of almost like successful and I'm doing well. And I love God and life is good. Like I would have, but that's also in a way a mask. It's a
Yeah.
coping mask of, is that really how you feel? Or are you working yourself into the ground and you want to help other people so much that you're not willing to focus on yourself too?
Yeah.
It's all of those things that come up, and that's really difficult. So I want to name that too, because if you're listening to this or watching this and you're on that kind of journey and having some of these realizations that, I got the promotion and I got the title and I got this and that, and maybe it's not what you thought it might have been, and you find yourself more stressed.
Yeah.
What is one of the ways, this is a more, again, question to your technical work, and I know you've worked so many different places around the world and have very rich experiences in that way. But when organizations or individuals reach out to you, Magda, in that kind of first step, what do you
Mhm.
consistently see? Like, what are they actually looking for? So when they reach out to you, what is it usually like the problem that they are
Mhm.
trying to seek help with? What do you find is most common in your business right now that
Yeah.
people are reaching out and saying, "Ugh, can you help us with this?" Or what is the thing that they say?
I think there are three elements that come out, like really often when clients approach me. Conflicts at work,
Okay.
people don't work well together. They don't, yeah, exactly. They don't see eye to eye. They don't support each other. So that's one of them. Then it's inefficiency in communication, quite a lot, but then it also translates in, low productivity, and stress,
Mm.
burnout, this, and which also translates then into lower engagement, lower commitment, and higher, number of sick days, and etc. So these are most of the, I could group most of the conversations that I have focusing on these kind of issues. And I think they are, I've been there when I was an employee, when I was a manager. I've seen all of those at work, and I was a part of them also. Like I can see that in myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
I and now I can recognize also why, some of them I can explain through PCM and through the, the differences of perceptions and of seeing the world and the different motivational needs that we have. And, in the fact that I was not ready to really embrace and enjoy the diversity in personality, which PCM
Mhm.
teaches us about.
Yeah.
And then it comes also to the neuroscience and the emotional part, the emotional assertiveness. We were taught that is actually it's recommended to put on a facade that all is good.
Yes.
Don't
Yep.
be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this with vulnerability. Ah, but that's what yeah, now I'm like, because in my training, I do share a lot. I am very vulnerable.
Same. Same.
Yeah, I make a lot of fun also of myself,
Yeah.
especially, life is too serious. Okay, we should deliver something together,
Yes. Because you can't, I tell people I'm at a stage where I say, you can't take yourself too seriously. We just can't.
Life is way too serious already.
Yeah.
And I do think also both PCM and the neuroscience and now the emotional assertiveness, they are very serious trainings and they are complex, and they put
Yes.
us face to face with parts of us that we might not want to see. So then I find, and I must say, the thinker floor in me, my second floor,
Uh-huh.
went to studies search, because sometimes I was thinking, man, I'm using too much humor in my training. Is that okay? And actually, there are a lot of studies saying that humor in learning actually increases retention of information and, attachment of the
Mhm.
person to the subject. And
We're
so
lighting
I
up
don't,
different parts of the brain, and it's
and it's also,
releasing like chemical release, and it helps make
yes,
the learning stickier. I think it
yeah,
also builds community. I incorporate literal like playlists that I make for my trainings for music. So I have
right,
like specific like breaks too, because that also elevates, I think, the frequency in the room and the energy. And one of my goals in 2024 as a practitioner, I got to look, I have my marker board over here, and is to really always be mindful of how am I implementing workshops and facilitation or anything that I write or put out. How does it carry the frequencies of light, joy, and heart? And how are
oh,
those things being infused throughout, and ultimately through love, through a lens of love?
yeah,
And that has really shifted how I'm designing some things, because, in our world, I'm persister based. And that's, as she was describing, truly what makes us really great strategists and strategic planning advisors, and how I think about data and human centered data and how we really ask the direct questions to employees, all that stuff I love. That's great because it motivates me in those ways. But that personality, especially in distress, tends to really look at, well, what's not going to work, and gets very soapbox. And
yeah,
you have to make fun of it though at a certain point, and
yeah.
also embrace it. And so my joke with that is also, well, and my mom named me full of justice. So there's that. Like, you
Oh,
have to learn enough about yourself to be okay with, like, I am who I am. And that
yeah,
might not always be for everybody at any given moment, because they might also have their own stuff. So we
yeah,
don't have to walk around taking those things personal, though.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and being a trainer teaches you a lot about that, because
Yeah.
and especially we were talking about people pleasing also before. So it took me a long time to actually be okay with the fact that not everybody is going to like my style, not everybody is going to love me and what I'm doing, and that is
Mhm.
absolutely fine. But man, it took a lot of time and a lot of distress and a lot of crying and a lot of
Oh,
playing the
yeah.
victim.
Same.
Oh,
Same.
yeah, and now I'm like, you know what, I will attract the clients that will benefit the most from the work I'm doing and the way I'm doing that. And you know what, joy is one, it's my keyword for this year. So I liked what you said about, and I have, like, I have other secondary words, and I'm looking now at my vision board for 2024. So joy is in the center, big there, and then
Yes.
I love,
Oh,
presence, abundance, magic, and connection. These
I
are my
look,
other
I can't not make another book recommendation. So one of my colleague friends, Marla Eccles, she's actually was nominated. She's part of DODIA, the Department of Defense for United States, but based in Spain, and she was the DODIA Teacher of the Year. And she's
Wow.
actually one of our Educator Aid Network Consultants. She's part of our consultant network too. So we collaborate on some things. We've just been working on some things, but one of the first things I did was purchase her book when I met her, but she has a text called Joy is My Choice. So I wanted to put that out there to Miss Marla Eccles. Congrats again on being the reigning Dodia Teacher of the Year for your region in Spain. But it says on the front, Joy is My Choice, a reflection journal. Trust your journey. Take time to acknowledge your joy factors. So if you're looking for a great way to also have, for example, just space and try to apply the teachings even that Magda has been sharing about, or some of those strategies on a daily basis, I would also highly recommend Marla's book. And she's just nourished the essence of your soul. She's just awesome.
I love that.
So
You
make
need to
sure.
give me, to
Yes,
share the
joy is my
reading.
choice. Yes, I will do. So, okay,
Yes.
but back to this, I have one other question about from organizational. So, what are some ways, and this is a big one because I see, and I'll be interested in your context. I know in the United States corporate lens, North America corporate lens, there is definitely a move slowly but surely into more belonging, emotional well-being, inclusion in the workplace.
Yes.
Number one, give us a little context in your area because you work with a lot of clients in Romania and you've worked a lot in the UK. Give us some context. Again, we have listeners all over the world, but based on where you're at right now and majority of your clients for the past 7 years or so, where is a lot of that coming in, I guess, as far as the trends? Because here in the States, it's a slow but steady. It's becoming more acceptable. Like, hey, our newer generations, millennials, Generation Z, Generation Alpha, they're wired differently because they live in a different world. And in some respects, I feel as though it's something that workplaces can't ignore, but I don't know the context in European countries, Eastern or Western European.
Yeah. I will say I'm more familiar with the context in Romania because a lot of my clients, and especially corporate clients are there. In the UK, I worked a little bit only. I was just developing my network when I left. So I have, but I have experience there as an employee, so I can also share from that. Um, so what I see the same trend in Romania too, and from what I'm sharing now, because I can share a bit of what I'm noticing in Germany because I'm observing the market.
Perfect.
Hopefully, I will also soon also get to work on the German market, but in
Perfect.
English. I cannot deliver PCM or emotional assertiveness or neuroscience in German. I'm not there yet, but I see a focus there, at least. So in all three countries, I would say at least at the declarative level, the focus is there. Now,
Okay.
what is happening? What
Yeah.
is happening in real life? That's something else. Um,
So it's almost like a mask because I feel that that's what I do see in the States. Like, well, we're going to say we're prioritizing it. We'll at least say we're prioritizing it, which is the first step, by the way, with change management. You have to at least communicate this is a priority and we're
and to
going to be
understand
working
it is.
towards this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it
Okay.
might take a while, until you see
Right.
some statistics and trends to actually understand, well, this is really a priority and we should really do
Right.
some things about it.
Right.
What I see, like, so because I was sharing, I teach a lot of PCM. Well, PCM in itself, because it helps so much with self-awareness, with not taking things personally, with understanding the beauty of diversity, and understanding. I've noticed, I've noticed the water bottle. Yes. Yeah. So PCM, I think it's an amazing step in this direction because even if companies initially, ask for PCM for the communication, impact, the improving of communication that it brings, and stress management. Because as I see PCM, it's an amazing tool both for communication
Yeah.
and stress management. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So first they come with that, but what they get as a bonus and what they did not know that they are going to get is this appreciation of diversity in personality,
Yeah.
because you just learn about how rich we are as human beings, how we all have the seed of understanding of everybody else in us, because we all have the 6 personality types in us, and
Yes.
how it's actually valid how the other sees the world, even if it's not my favorite way of seeing and perceiving and processing the world.
Correct.
So they get this, and I actually started uh, to focus on this a lot, guys. We are all okay. This is what PCM is teaching us. We
Yeah.
are all okay.
Right.
We are all worthy of all the good things, and the other person is just as okay and worthy as you are. And they
Mhm.
might just see the things differently, but if you look, like carefully and with appreciation, you might see that they add value to what you already create. They might see things from a different perspective, and then support you in building a better, product, service, whatever. So I see this now also in the communication that some clients of mine have, that they promote PCM and the work that I'm doing with them also as an element of increasing well-being. And
I love that though, because I
yeah,
think I want to name that. I think it's a really strategic way for
yeah,
organizations to actually leverage something that not only just gives so much value to your employees, because I will say, Magda, over the course of mainly really just doing the PPI with clients, the personality pattern inventory, that opens up a door where I have people go, Justine, this actually helped me like tenfold in my marriage. Like
absolutely.
so there, that when you gift your employees a tool like that, and I do want to, before we come back to you, Magda, I want to show people really quick, if you do go to the Educator Aid website, there's a button where you can see more about personality pattern inventory. That's a core tool that both
Mhm.
Magda and I use and work with our coaching clients, our group coaching, our leadership teams, corporate clients, etc. But if you go to our site and you click on data tools and click on personality pattern inventory, we actually have an example and a breakdown of the differences. And I'm showing this, Magda, because this is our overview, and this is actually the question I get most from
Nice.
our people, and I would guess you do too. Oh, well, what's
Mm.
so special about the PPI and how is it different? And this breaks down DISC, Hogan, socio, I can't even say that one,
Oceanic.
socionics,
Yeah, I don't know this
MBTI.
tool
I
in
got this
MBTI.
originally, I recreated it from one of our colleagues at the conference who presented. I don't recall her name. She was incredible though. She's
Don't remember.
Ukrainian
Yeah.
and Russian, but she has worked with some corporations. But she
Yeah.
had a similar chart. I said, wow. So has that also been a value add in other ways? But I just wanted to point that out if you guys are curious what we were talking about. uh,
Mhm.
so back to you. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, and related, I will say something related with this comparison that you showed, and then go back to the well-being and personal use of PCM. So remind me of that if I forget. That's why I put it out there.
That
So yeah,
same.
so now related to the comparison, Nate Regier, the master
Yes.
trainer in the coaching.
Compassionate accountability.
Exactly, and he mentions about I need to go deeper in compassionate accountability. I bought his book, so I have such a
We
lot
love
ready.
you. We love you, Nate. And that's my phrase here at the end of every episode. Let's get compassionately curious together.
Exactly. Yeah. So I do use a lot of his work, and like I'm one thing that he said, I think, when he talks about PCM compared with other model, is like, think of PCM as MBTI or DISC on steroids.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
it's a lot better, a lot richer, a lot deeper. That's why also 3 days of training in the classical format, because it goes so much deeper. And also one question that he said he asks his clients when they say, well, but not why not use DISC or MBTI or anything.
Myers Briggs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's saying, okay, how are you using MBTI, DISC, yeah, Myers-Briggs
Right.
insights every day to make your relationships better, or to make communication better, or to decrease stress? How are you using that every day? Because I can tell you
Yeah.
how you're going
Yeah.
to use PCM every day for that. So
Mm.
that's something that
Mhm.
it really stuck with me because it's true. I use
Yeah.
PCM every day with my
Yeah.
husband.
Yeah.
Like,
It-
and
It's one of
then
those things, it's like glasses. Once you
yeah,
put them on and you see things differently, you
I
are
want to take them off.
forever then reflecting on your interactions
Yeah,
in a very different way, where you can
yeah,
kind of become that more observer on your shoulder, watching what you're doing and like, okay,
exactly,
what's really happening in that conversation? And are you both okay? Or do you need to step
exactly.
away because communication isn't going to happen if one of us isn't okay?
Exactly. Exactly. And me and my husband, we have conversations in PCM terms and we watch TV
Mhm.
and we analyze people,
Yeah, me and my
in
partner do too. He was the first
yeah,
one I
so
gave the PPI to.
same here. Yes. Because we are already together when I was getting certified. So he
Yep,
got,
same.
me explaining everything and yeah, but because I use PCM so much, and I must say, and it's a case study that I use a lot in my work, my husband and my relationship with him. I use it, and coming back to the benefits of PCM for companies also, it's also like a bonus the fact that PCM will be used at home because you
Yes.
continue to be a person and you bring, of course, different parts of yourself, maybe at work and at home, but it
Right.
will help you so much at home too. And what I also, say to the clients is like, you're going to, you know, get a win-win on both sides because better relationships at home will help you to be more effective at work. And it will feel like, okay, I was given this training at work, but damn, it's so good at home too.
Yes.
And it
Yeah.
can solve so
Yeah.
many issues. Yeah, and my example with Frank, with my husband, a big reason why we are still together today, and thank God, is because we both know PCM. Because I for me it's so draining the way he behaves under stress. He really follows through with his persistent distress,
Oh,
and
let's
it's
get into
so
this. Give
draining
us
for me.
tips. Give us tips because I think we have it's he so my partner is thinker base. So
Hmm.
all
Yeah,
logic, top
same too.
floor harmonizer.
Oh
And I'm
no,
a
I'm like,
flip of that. So you
yeah,
all think about the perceptions of the world. My partner, he's putting on glasses of logic and analytics. I'm putting on emotions and feelings. And those are
yeah.
very different ways to process the same situation or the same conversation that we had together. Are you and Frank's dynamic similar to that?
It it it's a bit easier for me because in our first three floors, we have two floors that are common. So
We have two in
we
common, two of our first three.
okay.
Okay.
So then that helps. It makes it
Yeah.
easier because you don't need to make a big effort to take the elevator to speak on a common language. So he connects with my base quite easily because harmonizer is my base. Harmonizer is his third floor, so he doesn't need to spend that much energy to connect with me with my harmonizer base. And Tinker is his base and it's my second floor, so I also don't need to spend a lot of energy to connect with his base and speak his language of data, facts, information, logic. So it does help a lot. Persister is his second floor and phase, and it's my fifth floor. That's where the
That's my partner, but I'm persister base. And then my
okay,
third
okay,
floor is thinker. His base is
okay,
thinker. And I'm pretty
okay,
sure I faced a thinker like in the past
okay. So that
year.
will help you.
Yeah.
It's easier accessible, it's like
He's rubbing off on me, I guess.
okay,
No,
I
but
got it. He's happy
to
now.
translate also because we're in our own world now in PCM land
Yes,
process. So just to translate for you all, the that this model was built on a therapy model. That is also a whole other aspect of why you not only then in the pattern inventory, you get a personal action plan that is just tailored for you based on your results. And that's a psychological based research, I mean, body of 40 plus years of research, but
yeah,
you also are getting a professional personal action plan, both. So it's
yeah,
very specific. I mean, that was such a game changer for me. That's why I became a certified trainer. Like, even that alone was such a huge eye opening experience and even changed the way, honestly, before it helped me actually rectify some healing and
yeah,
acceptance with some relational things with my mom before she passed. So it had a very big impact on me. And most people who have worked with me or know me pretty well I do not support and promote things or people if I no longer believe in them, or meaning if I haven't
Mhm.
seen that impact in my own life. I'm not going to sell you something that has not impacted me personally, or that I don't strongly believe in and support. So I wanted to put out there, though, those details. It's also been a tool to train NASA. Like, it's a very upper level tool. And because of that, I think Magda and I, we both want to make it more available through the way how we're doing trainings, and make it more accessible so that we can have those, everybody can have, like, I believe everybody deserves to know
Yeah,
themselves this deeply.
absolutely. Yeah.
And for that reason, just again to translate for you all the stuff you hear us talking about in a nutshell, the PPI and this model, the actual tool that accompanies process communication model, it's very much about taking your own path and what you decide to do with it, if that
Mhm.
makes sense, in a way. And then it's also not typecasting you. I feel like sometimes when I've seen Myers-Briggs or even human design, I'm very much into astrology, and I know a lot about it. And I've actually even considered, Magda, how do I bundle together PPI and someone's birth chart and offered
I've
that.
been asked about that so
So,
much in my.
so that could maybe be how we collaborate. I don't know, but that
I'm
might
not good at
be because I'm
astrology, but
realizing
yeah,
when you pair the things, right? And we all have our different path and journey. We all have things that are going to speak to us more. Some people might go, birth chart, I don't need that. I'm like, PPI, I don't need it. And that's fine. You should start somewhere, though, so that you
yeah,
know yourself. But all that to say, in our model, it's not that you're cast into one type of personality. It's that we believe you have all of these energies and abilities within you to
yeah,
adapt, but we can't tap into those superpowers of knowing how to connect with people and how they communicate. It's like frequencies. If
yeah.
Magda's frequency is here someday and mine is here, are we
Mhm.
connecting? No.
Mhm.
So it gives us that understanding that we are very adaptive beings, and
Yeah.
it takes really looking at ourselves first. What else would you have to add, or anything with what we just said? Sorry, I was trying to bring it back because I know we got kind of technical there with like PCM language.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think you've said it very well. And why I love PCM so much is because it answered a lot of questions about why I cannot, connect with everybody, and that's okay. And it might
Yeah.
take some more energy for me to connect with people, but if the relationship is important, it's absolutely fine for me to give that energy. And now I know how to do that. It also helped me to understand how to charge my own batteries and how to take care of my batteries first,
Mm.
so then I can do better for my relationships and my work and everything. And as I said, it's this model has helped me and Frank stay together, because I understood that behind that behavior of him under stress, it was him suffering, because there were some things, his psychological needs, not only that they were not covered or met, they were actually pushed on negatively consistently. So
Yeah.
he's been through a
Yeah.
very difficult. And instead of me saying, "Oh my God, I hate this behavior," it was me. It took a while for me to
Yeah. Yeah.
this, switch. And it was then me, "Oh my God, he actually needs support. There's something I can do about that." And not my classical thing, what I would have done, which would have triggered him even more. So it was just,
Yeah.
oh my God, and it actually works. So
Right.
we just, I bring a lot of my both professional but also personal life in my trainings, because that's how I see that it really works.
Same.
And of course, sometimes it might not, because we are not, and this is something that I had to learn and to repeat to myself. We are not just PCM. We cannot be explained only
Yeah.
through PCM.
No.
We are way too complex. Then,
Yeah.
not one model can explain us. There,
That,
we are.
yes, that's why I love, like, start someplace. You're
Yes,
going to find all the different tools. And there's been so many that I'm sure you have done, so many, like, that is where I started years ago, was 5 love languages, Myers-Briggs, the DISC assessment. Like, that is where I started. And some of those I was lucky enough to get access to being a public school teacher and then a principal and superintendent. Like so it just depends also on your industry and maybe what's also going to be most beneficial for your situation. Maybe you've already done a lot with emotional intelligence, but you say, hey, I want to work more with my cultural awareness. And how do I understand that? That's kind of our jam at our company. And there's a lot of aspects about who we are. I mean, you get your whole life. We all get our whole lives to just unpack who we are. And I think for as much time as we can all spend on social media or doing things that, yeah, they might be fun and that's cool and that's great. But how are you connecting with yourself daily? Even just in small ways. I mean, I'm really going to do the alarm thing because it's like you have to be intentional. And I think because our world is so busy and harried, it's even more important that that intention is there. Where, what is it? Where attention goes, energy flows.
Exactly.
So here's a more serious question as we round out our interview, though. What is one global issue, just in particular, right now that keeps you up at night? It might not actually, and I hope that you get great sleep. I hope so many of us are learning how to manage stress and get really good sleep is such an important thing for mind, body, and soul, and even retaining new learning and new information and new experiences. But you personally, what's something that kind of keeps coming into your purview globally that it's like, yeah, this keeps me up at night? And you're geographically located pretty near proximity to a lot of happenings.
And in fact is one of these issues that well, the war in Ukraine, this is what stays in my mind quite a lot, well, since it started, because well, all my family is in Romania. And you know, it's Ukraine is a neighboring country, but I think what is scaring me the most is that we cannot take peace for granted. We cannot take what we have for granted. It can just end like that. And the you know, the experience of people in Ukraine shows us just that. And I know this has happened in so many places and it happens in so many places in the world. But of course, until it doesn't get closer to my home base, let's say, because Romania is still my home base, you know, even if I'm now in Germany, it I just don't feel it that strongly. But now with this, I did, and it's just it is scary how reality can change from one day to another.
Yes.
And at the same time, it just makes me want to live more in a day. Because I don't it's
Tomorrow's
scary,
not
but
promised.
exactly. So it seems like we I learned with kicks in the butt. Luckily,
Me too.
luckily this is not my direct butt that was kicked, but it was very close to home. And I think this is I can sleep at night, but not the first week when the war started. I was really worried and it really impacted my sleep. Now I'm just still watching what's happening, and I cannot believe it's still continuing and what's still going on there. But I think this is it, and it's just a lesson. Okay, don't take anything for granted, and just do your best, you know. And with my work, I feel like I'm doing my best, and it's more than work. It's a passion, it's a mission, and I'm grateful because I have the chance to do that, and I'm still building and I'm still learning, and it's a beautiful journey. And also with my private life, I'm just trying to put more life in every minute, you know, and to enjoy, even if it's just sitting with the two of us. Be present, petting the cats, speaking with Frank, or whatever it is, spending time with my parents when I deliver trainings in Romania and I stay with them. And I think that's what's on my mind.
Does it get emotional? This is just a curious question that popped up for me. Does it get emotional for you and or some of the participants that you've worked with in Romania, because things come up about growing up in communist Romania? Do those layers ever come out in some of your trainings and workshops? And is
Yeah.
that difficult for you? Like, because, and I say this because, and this happens in a multitude of ways. It could be with religion, it could be with government, it could be with any institution, but there tends to be, when you start to realize how systems work and
Mm-hmm.
the oppression that they were
Yeah.
designed to inflict on
Yeah.
people, that can be a really, really hard awakening to realize that your whole reality maybe was built on something that is really not who you are and what you believe about how life should be lived and or how people should be treated, no matter what government it is. Because just like you said, they're in every country. There are
Yeah.
corrupt things that can occur. It's more
Yeah.
magnified and glaring in certain parts of the world at any given time. But
Yeah.
how does that work for you as a facilitator? Because there can be a heavy energy with that.
Yeah. Well, it depends. If they are participants that are my age or a bit older, which doesn't happen that much today, then they will have the memory of communism and what that
Yeah.
did to us and to our culture. And what you can see a lot that happened to the Romanians during communism is that we couldn't trust each other because of the security thing. Like people were telling about other people if they were speaking bad about the
Yeah.
Ceausescu
Yep.
family or the communist regime or stuff, and they
Huh?
were then betrayed by friends and things like that. So there was a big issue with trust, and I can still see that, in
Yeah.
my generation, because it was a break of trust that happened
Yeah.
for generations. Then it's the competitive kind of spirit, like, what did your colleague do? Oh, you should have taken the best grade in the classroom, or things like that. Always the comparison, and
Do you think that's birthed from survival mode and knowing
I
if I want to get out, I have to outshine everyone and show that
I
I'm
think
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think a part of it's just a part of it. I'm sure
Yeah.
that there are many other reasons
Yeah.
for it. But one of it was, yeah, if you were, the one of the brightest, you could have had better opportunities and
Right.
maybe even to have a better job and get out of the country on, of course, with work and things like that. So
Right.
better positioned. But it's not only that. With this element, especially with the comparison, I'm sure there are a lot of factors, but that can be then translated into this competition spirit. And while competition up to a certain level is good,
Right.
after a level,
Yeah.
yeah,
Then it becomes destructive.
exactly, and
It can.
that's
Okay.
exactly
Thank
something
you.
else that
Thank you. Thank you
yeah.
for sharing that context a little bit. It was just a curious question that came up for me. Final question
Yeah.
before we hear what you're working on right now, what we should be expecting from you. But this segment is called Inner Child. And I want you to think back to little Magda. And we know in our world, in the worlds that you and I serve in, Magda, that our personality structure, our unique personality structure, is formed by the age of 8. I'm correct. There's no other new research, correct? Is that tracking with you?
Yeah, to
Okay.
be
So we're
same,
gonna
yeah.
go back. We're gonna go back to when little Magda was 8 and little you. What's
Mm-hmm.
a key principle that you live by now that when you think back to 8-year-old you, you can trace back and go, yeah, I was that same person then, and I still live by that today. So what's that principle? And a lot of times guests also share who taught that to them.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it was just something innately that you knew and you said, that's how I ran then, and this is how I run now.
Mm-hmm. I think it's this idea that I got from around that age, that um, better be kind with people because you don't know what they are going through. And I think my mom told me that once, that, some people who maybe sometimes they are angry or very, unfriendly, you don't know what pains they are hiding.
Mm,
So while it still doesn't work out at all times, sometimes I might bring the beast outside, but one first thing that I try to do at all times when somebody has a difficult behavior, or I don't seem to understand why they would act in that way, is to first think, I don't know what they've been through. I don't know what maybe they are suffering, what pain they hide. So yeah, exactly. You're showing this now. It's exactly what I also think. And I am really trying even, today, first be kind and give, I don't know how many chances to somebody and try to support, and because you don't know what they've been through.
That's
And
right.
yeah, I like that you had it
It's so
ready.
funny because I screenshotted this and I originally thought I literally this morning. So I spend time in prayer and meditation and just kind of pondering even before I'm recording a podcast or something, not just when I'm working with clients or like speaking someplace or anything, that just that God, the universe, the divine, the creator, and what the intention should be, that whatever I'm supposed to be used as a vessel that day, that the right words would hit with the right people in the right ways in the right timing that they may need or seek. And it's so interesting because I literally saw this yesterday. I snapped it because it was from one of my friends' Facebook or something. And it kept coming up for me. And it's funny that you literally chose that's the principle. Like, seriously, you all, we did not plan this. But I was thinking of ways, how could this be woven into this conversation at some point? Because I wanted to put it out there as a reminder for people, like no matter where we're at, and we have somewhat of our schedule laid out. I was telling Magda, because we have so many guests lined up. So I'm not certain on the exact day that hers is going to release, but it's probably going to be closer to fall. And we know in the United States in particular, there's an election cycle happening, right? And we are already seeing, just like around the world with unrest, whether it's government or political unrest and war and famine and all these things, this is such a reminder. So if you're listening only, it's just a picture that says why you should be gentle with people. And then it has, right, a bar, and like 95% of it is colored black and says, right, like, and then half of it's blue, like 5%. It's the whole thing of someone's life and then what you actually know about it. So thank you for sharing that, Magda, because it really hits home. And I think that carries us all a really long way when we are encountering anything that maybe feels different to us. A different personality, a different skin color, a different accent, a different language, a different hairstyle, or whatever the thing is that goes, oh, I've never seen that before. I've never experienced that before. Okay. And what do you do with that information? Are you going to make an assumption about that person and you're judging them off of one thing that they posted on social media, one picture that they took?
Yeah.
Are you going to remember that this is an entire person with millions of lived experiences that you haven't had?
Exactly.
And how do we value that? So, okay, Magda, what unapologetically living out your purpose, go wrapping up. What are some things we should be on the lookout for? Do you have any new articles or books or courses or online stuff coming out besides maybe however God wants us to collaborate or the universe sees fit?
Exactly. We'll see.
We go with the flow.
Yes, exactly. Well, so I'm actually working now on several areas. By the way, my website, by the time probably this podcast episode is going to be aired, it will look differently. I'm finally paying some specialists to do their magic with my website. Until now, it was just me.
Wonderful.
And what it's going to contain now also, of course, PCM, I'm doing that. So especially for companies in Europe, here I am. I know I'm doing an amazing job because I've been told so, and I learned not to be modest about it anymore because I've been modest about this for years and years. So
it's a skill we're both working on.
Yes.
How do we
exactly.
share about ourselves? How do we become our brand?
Exactly. Oh, by the way, I'm working on my personal brand also with some specialists. So that's also work in progress. I am work in progress at all times, but these elements are now. In autumn and also in spring, I'm organizing open process communication model trainings, which I do online. Normally, I think time-wise, they are fit for participants in Europe or
Okay.
more or less in this time.
If
Yeah,
people hear this and they wanted to join in the US, because I'm guessing it would probably be like early morning for US participants.
yeah, nah, because I do them
Or,
early, like morning-ish in CET, Central European time, and
okay.
depending where they are in the US. So normally they start at 9 a.m. Central European
Oh, so
time.
it'd be late night.
I would assume, yeah.
So if you work, I don't know, whatever shift you work, but have you ever had anybody from North America?
No, but I have
Not yet.
somebody from Malaysia join them.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah,
Well, we
and
say
for them it
not
was 4
yet,
p.m.
not
Yeah.
yet.
Not yet, exactly. Rephrasing that. Yes, so I do that, and what I've noticed, and I really received very good feedback, is that I'm doing it like a program over 6 weeks with
Ooh,
a bit
nice.
over 3 hours of teaching, with
Nice.
homework from week to week. So people get a lot of time to digest the information and apply because it's online.
I like
So
it.
I have people, I do one in Romanian and one in English. So people can join wherever they are normally in Europe. But open to other continents, of course.
Right.
And that's something that I'm doing. It's already a tradition. This is the 4th year I'm doing, and I'm loving it, and people love it. And it will be for sure on my website already, and I will want to bring to the world a lot more is emotional assertiveness training, and with different.
I was going to ask you, if you didn't say that,
Oh, yeah.
Are you going to do anything just specifically if somebody hears this and they go, I'm an empath, or I'm a highly sensitive person, or I need help with all that emotional stuff? Are you going to do anything that is just emotional assertiveness, even if, or have you not thought about it yet? Sorry. I get excited because I'm excited to learn more and order John's book. So
yeah, trust me, I am also excited to work on myself based on what I've learned. There's so much, but like if I wouldn't be excited about this and seeing so many things to work on myself, I wouldn't believe in it so much. So I will still have to decide exactly how I do, but I know that for sure I will work on the model that he proposes with the authentic emotions and our key emotions, because he talks about the 4 key emotions that we all have: happiness, sadness, anger, and fear, and how they look like when they are showed authentically, and how they look when they are blocked or showed unauthentically, and what effect that has on our life and the relationships and everything. And like, it's really, there are so many nuances to it, and I still need to define exactly how I'm going to do that, but I'm very open to suggestions. And that for sure is something that I want to focus on, because it just blew my mind, and it combines very well with PCM, in the advanced
absolutely.
PCM, how we talk about the emotions that can lead to phasing when we are
the masks, the different degrees of distress,
exactly,
going into the basement.
Exactly. So they are connected. They are very well connected. And I know that I already heard from people who went through my PCM training, like, I want emotional assertiveness too. So for sure, that's going to be one element. And what I'm working on also on the neuroscience side, because I already have an online pre-recorded course on the neuroscience of stress, which is something that I wish I would have had when I was going through all my stressful period and whole year of burnout and everything. I want to also work on other courses. Maybe they will be done by the time this episode is shared with the world. Maybe not, but they are work in progress. I want to, exactly, that's the neuroscience of stress course. That's the one on my website. And I want to work also on the neuroscience of trust, of building relationship, of communication, of mindfulness. There's a lot of on my plate that I'm starting to digest and to work on.
Me too.
But yeah, this is already available, this course, and the neuroscience of stress. And what I want to add to it also is to have like monthly 1 hour like Q&A sessions, for people who go to be able to discuss real case studies and to have their questions. Yeah. So
wonderful. This is amazing, Magda.
Thank
So
you.
if you haven't, be sure to check this out in particular on this area of her website. And again, these are linked in the show notes. So don't worry, if you're listening on podcast, you can just click the show notes. But I love, this is her neuroscience of stress course. So you can enroll in that at any time. And then,
Yes.
as she stated, she often is offering and going on 4 years that you've been offering and hosting open PCM trainings that are 6 weeks,
Yes,
6-week
6 weeks.
cycles to really go
Anybody
deep
can sign up. Exactly. Anybody. Sometimes
Wonderful.
there are companies, sending people when they don't have
Yes.
enough people for a whole team or a whole, class to happen just for themselves. But it's open to anybody who wants. And I strongly, of course, it changed my life. So of course I'm recommending.
Hey, we're biased.
We are
So
biased.
that's why at the end of the day, you have to really full circle. We have to really each love learning ourselves. So we do create our own blueprint in the process of what speaks to our soul for
Yeah.
that particular part of our journey. Some things are going to light you up at the start of your journey of anything and or on your way. And then other things you'll say 10 years later, you need something very different. Maybe a year later, I would hope, right? Because that's our goal is we're evolving.
Yeah, yeah. But as I like to say, I'm happily biased,
Yes, yeah. It's a positive bias.
Yes, yes,
Well,
yes.
and that with her true sunshine spirit, we will close out. Thank you, Miss Magda. It has always been a pleasure anytime we get to connect, and I can't wait to see how our collaborative paths continue to cross. Thank you for being here. Thank you, subscribers, listeners, followers. Anything you do to give us a great review. If these episodes brighten you, lighten you, give you strategies or hope or challenge you, be sure that you share, be sure that you support, because it helps us continue to bring incredible guests and sponsor this through Educator Aid, my consulting firm, and bring it to you with more guests. So thank you for your support, listeners and viewers. As always, let's continue to get compassionately curious together. Until next time, I'm your hostess, Justine González.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.